Portugal. Now, in the later stages, we're going to talk about the Portuguese people, which is going to give you a clear idea of what was happening at that time. Let's come to England. In England, a new spirit of science and investigation in Europe was part of the general upheaval in human understanding. In 1476, that is obviously the 15th century, William Caxton introduced printing press in England, and he printed an edition of the Canterbury Tales. And the novel originated from the early modern period for the first time ever. And plays for entertainment, as opposed to religious enlightenment, returned to Europe's stages in the early modern period. William Shakespeare is the most notable of the early modern playwriters, but numerous others made important contributions, including Christopher Marlowe. Now, when we look at England during these centuries, we see that the first major event that changed the ideology and beliefs of the people in England was the invention of the printing press. Now, why is it important? Obviously, in a society where people are not able to proliferate or spread knowledge in any other form, now have a printing press at their hand. So this speaks of one kind of liberty that general public now had at their disposition. For example, prior to the invention of social media, people were not this liberal and they did not have freedom of speech. But now, with the passage of time, everybody has this mobile phone in their hand and they can now make videos, they can speak of their opinions without any restriction. So, similarly, invention of printing press in itself refers to the liberty of speech. People before this did not have the hard copies easily available of these different writers, but now they have this at their disposal. So many people started writing, and obviously, when you write, one of your major aim is to persuade and is to bring change. And similar was the situation in England as that at that time. Then we look at the presence of William Shakespeare as one of the known artists in the history of English drama and literature, where he was not only the playwright, but he was a poet as well. So this indicates that, that there was a change in the medium of entertainment for the people out there in England. The big theaters were built, and plays were one of the source of entertainment for different people at that time. The next slide says Shakespeare drew upon the arts of jester and strolling players in creating new style comedies. All the parts, even the female ones, were played by men. Theaters were the main mode of entertainment at that time. Now, these 3 points, why have I picked them up? I have specifically picked them up just to tell you about what kind of society was it. Despite all the liberty, despite the invention of printing press, despite the change that was coming in Europe, still the female roles were played by men. This shows the presence of that conservative thought and the strength of the Christian belief system, that females at that time did not have enough liberty to play the roles. And that is why all the roles were dependent upon um, males to be played. The last point in this slide speaks of Spain, where Cervantes' Don Quixote de la Mancha has been called the first novel. It was published in two parts. The first part was published in 1605 and the second in 1615. The novel poked fun at a collection of heroic folk legends. Now, as I have pointed out, the origination of novel in the early modern period, this origination is referring to this particular novel, where what was one of the theme? One of the theme was to poke fun at the collection of heroic folk legends. Now, those idols who were a source of admiration for the people in England at that time were no more a source of admiration. Rather, people had started looking at them as common or ordinary people who may also commit folly and mistakes. Now, this is one of the important change in the belief system. Earlier, what was happening? The church was the esteemed class of the society, and they were not supposed